Okay, what is up, world? I'm back for my second video and I'm feeling a lot better about it, so let's go. This one is about unity. So we did fragmentation last week and tried to explain a little bit of what that meant to me. And today we're going to understand, well, I'm going to try and explain what unity is about. So we're going to start with quantum physics, and I think that's our best understanding that we have in a classical sense of what unity is. So firstly, a quote by Neil Bohr, who is a Nobel Prize winner. If anyone says he can think about quantum physics without getting giddy, that only shows that he's not understood a thing about it. So I think it's a pretty awesome quote because it shows you like this stuff is really exciting and it's really, really novel to our scientific understanding and our general understanding of the world. Like quantum physics for me gives us a way of seeing ourselves as being the center of the universe. What I mean by that is we observed pretty early that we have what's called the observer effect. Like whatever we give our attention to essentially is changed in a way. So for example, if we observe a system, that system changes just by our observation. So it puts us really in the driving seat of the creation of our own reality. And it really is a realignment of classical physics. There's a lot of people calling it the second, or some people are calling it the most important revolution we've had in science in the last 100 years. And I think we can really understand that when we look at not only what it shows us about the nature of life, but also the nature of ourselves. That we're not just physical beings, that there is a deeper level of understanding. The second point I'm going to talk about is emotions that promote unity. So emotions like love, joy, contentment, happiness, like when you feel those emotions, a lot of the time, if you really have to focus inward, you can tell like you feel more connected, you feel more united with whatever is the object that is creating that emotion. If it's yourself, maybe it's a reflection of a memory that was a positive memory and it brings you back, it brings a smile back to your face. Like that to me is an ability to have a unified feeling. And I think we can all subjectively just kind of give some credence to that. What I mean is we can look at studies, but I think what's more understandable for everyone is to look at their own emotions. When you feel love, when you feel empathy, when you feel like real joy and happiness, does it feel like something that disconnects you from other people, or does it feel like something that connects you? And I think any person that I've met or spoken to will agree it's something that connects you. There's a lot of new emerging phenomenon that also really explains kind of not what unity is, but what manifestations that might look like in a third dimensional plane. One of them would be quantum teleportation, the idea that they are teleporting information using the understanding of quantum physics. Another example would be telepathy, the idea that some people have demonstrated the ability to share information or thoughts without saying a word. Remote viewing, a lot of money and institutional research has been put into understanding how we can use our minds to remote view either subjects or places that are geographically not in the same vicinity as the person. Lucid dreaming, there's been a lot of people and also studies around lucid dreaming and understanding what exactly that is and seeing how much fun you can have with it. And all these phenomena kind of point to this connected underlying fabric of nature that exists. Another example is brainwave synchronization. Now this happens in a lot of circumstances, but there's a couple that I think are really, really interesting. The first one is in conversation. If you're having a deep and meaningful conversation, your brainwaves synchronize with the person that you're talking to. And depending on the depth of your conversation will depend on how much synchronization between your brainwaves you have, which is just really, really interesting. And again, points towards an understanding of unity being a drawing factor in this life. The next point is how it's expressed in religion. So in Christianity, God is spoken about as the Alpha and the Omega, the everything that ever was or ever will be. Again, that is a term that reeks of unity. It really, really holds a lot of similarity with what we're speaking about. In Islam, in the Quran, it says, God is the one, the absolute and the eternal. Again, terms that are really reminiscent of unity. In Hinduism, God is known as the collection of all gods, which is a beautiful way of expressing the connection that we all have in separation. In the Baha'i faith, God is beyond space and time, and He's omnipresent. So a lot of world religions speak about God in a way that, if you have to look at the similarities, they are speaking of an essence of unity, an essence of connection, an essence of love is another word that is thrown around a lot. And if we look at fundamentally what love is, again, as an emotion or as a feeling or as an experience, it really, really points towards connection, unity, and we'll see why in the next couple of ideas. I now want to go into just a little example of how I understand unity to be manifested. So if you think about a prism of light, or how light strikes a prism and then is separated into colors, I think that is a great understanding of unity and of separation. I think that is a great understanding of unity and of separation. The light can literally show how, while it can be one thing and look like pure white light, it can also be a rainbow full of color. And to have these two separate realities coexisting at the same time, I think is a great example of fragmented unity and of separation and unity. The next idea I'm going to move on to is mirror neurons. So this is a highly debated topic in psychology, and this is to do with a part of the brain that essentially connects emotionally and responds emotionally to what we observe visually. So for example, if we see someone breaking their leg, we respond in a physical way, or we tend to feel or imagine what that feels like in a very visceral way that actually connects to our own biology. And this can be observed also both positive and negatively. A lot of scientists and psychologists are saying that it's what is responsible for a lot of empathy in people, what allows us to connect to other people. It is the mechanism of connection. Another example of this would be oxytocin. It's a brain or neurochemical that is released specifically during sex or during the birth of a child by the mother and the father, and it is a bonding chemical that allows us to deepen the relationship that we have with people in the moment that chemical is expressed or released. And I think that's a great example of how our physiology is leading us towards an understanding of unity. It's set up and developed in a way that when we have experiences of meaning and magnitude, we are given a response of the feelings of connection. We are given a taste of unity, and I think that is the most beautiful thing in the world. The next thing I'm going to move on to is the psychological studies of psychedelics. So the first study is with dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. It was done by Dr. Rick Strassman, and a lot of his patients observed very similar examples of what they experienced while on dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine is released in the brain when we die, and is also present in the brain. And a lot of these volunteers essentially spoke of a very similar feeling of extreme love, extreme connection, and extreme unity. And I think that's rather fascinating, given that they were just given a dose of psychedelics, that they can have an experience so profound and so seemingly similar to other ideas of connected states like near-death experiences, which we'll speak about next. Then also the John Hopkins mushroom studies. That was a study where volunteers were given mushrooms and then were exposed to various that was a study where subjects were given. That was a study when volunteers were given psychedelic mushrooms and exposed to a church service that essentially resulted in 8 out of 10 of the participants who had received psychedelics having really profound positive experiences, and only 3 or 2, if I'm not mistaken, of the subjects that weren't given mushrooms having profound experiences. So this also lends belief to the idea that psychedelics are a way of understanding unity within ourselves. And it's very interesting to note that the Johns Hopkins University actually now has a whole unit dedicated to the study of psychedelics. And they are looking for, or they have found ways to treat depression, addiction, PTSD. Sorry. They have found ways to treat depression, addiction, and PTSD with psychedelic therapy, which I think is truly amazing, but again speaks credence to the idea that using plant medicines that kind of bring the users closer to a unified experience can bring them relief from depression, from the feelings of disconnect, from the feelings of separation, from the feelings of fragmentation, from the feelings of being alone from everything else, of being cut off at the umbilical cord. I think it's really beautiful. Then again, near-death experiences. There have been multiple books written about a collection of stories of near-death experiences, and a lot of them tell a similar story. There's thousands and thousands of stories telling about this feeling of divine connection that people experience in this near-death experience itself. And I think seeing how all these little breadcrumbs could possibly lead to an understanding of unity, it really, really excites me, and it really, really gets me motivated and positive for this life, because it starts to make sense. Things start to fall into a category of understanding that works. When you can see things as either a manifestation of unity or a manifestation of separation, and understand that duality, and understand how to navigate those two things, I think life becomes a lot more easy. The thing I'm going to speak about is music. So I found a really interesting study about brainwave synchronization that I spoke about earlier, and how people that go to music concerts, specifically live concerts, experience a great deal of brainwave synchronization. Again, really interesting in the concept of, really interesting in the understanding of unity that we've been speaking about today, and really energizing, because I think everyone knows and has experience at a live music show, or should have experience at a live music show, and can tell you just what that feels like. So if you don't know, ask someone who's been. But yeah, I guess this is my first breakdown of unity. I really want to go into each one of these topics a lot more in the next couple of weeks, and that's probably what I'll do. I'll start with unity because it's a bit more exciting, and then we'll move into fragmentation and a deeper description of what that is. So until next week, bye bye.